Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the MADE Fitz Show. Now, I'm thrilled to introduce our guest, Amira Alvarez. She is a UC Berkeley graduate and the founder and CEO of the Unstoppable Woman. Amira is a powerhouse in the world of entrepreneurship and mentorship. With her podcast, which ranks in the top 2% worldwide, she inspires ambitious women to achieve greater financial success. Listen, Lauren, while leading fulfilling lives. After a remarkable five-fold increase in her income within just 1 year and building a multi-million-dollar business, Amira has mastered the art of balancing ambition and contentment. Today, we're exploring profound topics that resonate with high achievers, including the journey towards finding true fulfillment and navigating the complexities of self-doubt. Let's dive into the conversation with Amira Alvarez. It is so nice to have you today. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited about the conversation today and to get to know both of you a little bit more.
Yeah, me too. I would love to just start off by learning a little bit more about you. If what brought you to where you are today? What was your journey like? Obviously UC Berkeley, that says a lot, but from that point on, from if the moment that you knew that you were going to go into school, that this is where you wanted to be, or if there was something that kind of redirected your journey to get you to where you are today.
Sure. So I think the UC Berkeley aspect of my past is kind of an important one, not just because it's UC Berkeley, but because that's how I was brought up. I was brought up to be like a student, go hard, that like work your patootie off and get good grades. Like that was the vision set out for me of how to live a successful life. And it wasn't health, it wasn't working out, though, they put me in the after school sports and everything, but like it really was academics. It wasn't beauty, it wasn't meditation, right? There was like a very linear one size fits all kind of approach. And you know what? In some ways it worked. And there was a lot of great stuff that came out of that. I learned work ethic and persistence and willpower and discipline. And I think you can learn those in a lot of different ways, but that's where I learned mine. And so I worked in corporate and I did all sorts of things prior to my entrepreneurial sort of entry into that world. And then I started a mind body practice after going to school to train to be an Alexander Technique teacher. I don't know if you guys know what. Okay, so
Tell
this
us.
is a whole backstory there. But like I was in corporate, I had carpal tunnel syndrome, I had back pain, I had all sorts of things, and I ended up studying to become a Alexander Technique teacher because that's what helped me heal myself from that. And this was a big and my teacher was someone who was living this beautiful life. She had this gorgeous house with the studio in the back and the rose, climbing roses everywhere. And it was like, I want this life. This looks like so easy. So it's not, by the way, right? Like running your
Let's establish the truth. It's not, but
right. And I didn't realize that she had someone supporting her and like she wasn't making that kind of lifestyle money from this business. But anyways, I started my own entrepreneurial journey that way. And I had to learn how to run a business because I didn't want to be poor. And so I used all those driven skills, like be the best in your class, go hard, to build a business. And it morphed into a coaching business because I ended up really loving the business side of things. And I naturally was helping people how to do that and work on their mindset. And it was a really beautiful conglomeration of my desire for personal growth and business. And I built this multi-million-dollar coaching business, helping women build businesses and get out of their own way, be unstoppable in the face of all the things that come up when you're running a business. And I did that for years. And I loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it until I didn't. Right. And I never thought I would say that I didn't love it, because it was my identity. It gave me so much juice. It gave me so
Yeah.
much like vigor for life. And but I got to this place where I was like, this can't be all there is.
Mm.
And I keep using the same MO, which for me, I don't know if it's the same for you, was create a project, create a bunch of urgency around it, set the new goals, set the new like benchmarks, create a lot of urgency around it, run as fast as you can to that, and ignore everything else in my life, because that was the single focus. And then get there, have this moment where I was like, oh, what about this in my life? And what about this in my life? And this isn't going particularly well. Okay, let's set another goal and get really distracted and go for that. Well,
Yeah.
it's great for building a business. I have to tell you, like, it really is. Okay. Like, that's a lot of energy running away from the things you don't want to look at. That's a lot of energy to put towards your business. And I was really, really good at that. That was like a pattern that I was really good at. And then I decided I was tired of that pattern and I wanted to figure out a different way of doing life and inclusive of my business. So that's the long story to how I got here.
That's incredible. So my first question, I have a million questions. So Lauren, you can jump in anytime. But I, what were your first steps to go from recognizing the fact that you were a workaholic and you were pouring every ounce of yourself into your work, uh, to be able to now say that you can coach, high achieving women into doing what you do now, which is to have complete fulfillment. What was this? I mean, was it journaling? Was it meditating?
Okay.
What was it that got you to that? Just to start, because like to me, I'm just like I wouldn't even know. We both, Lauren and I, high five each other, but also we work so incredibly hard. But for me, if we were to end this podcast, which we wouldn't, I'd be like, what? But I don't know what to do. I want that. I want
Yeah.
more contentment, but I wouldn't even know where to start.
Yeah, let me lay it out for you. So first, I want to say I'm not 100% fulfilled. Like, I have my demons, I have my things that are
You're
like
human.
that. I'm still human, I'm still growing, but I've made a radical shift and I'm proud of that. Okay.
Good.
Um, but I think that needs to be said, because I don't like the sometimes the Instagram life version of life is not reality. Okay.
That's what I was literally
So
about to say. Like, there's so many people that coach in areas that they have no right to coach at all.
yeah. And so I'm not perfect, but I've made a big transition. And I think the first thing to answer your question, Melissa, was actually a real recognition that this was the same pattern again and again. Okay. Like, and there was one core wound that would come up, like when I had that moment where I achieved the thing, and you have that like little moment where it's quiet and you haven't set the next thing yet. And you have this moment to yourself, and all that stuff starts coming in, and then you set the next goal and you distract yourself. But I had this moment where I was like, I'm doing the same thing again. I'm doing this again and again and again. And I recognized I talk a lot about core wounds on my website. You might have noticed that you mentioned that. Yeah.
Mhm.
And my core wound was, I'm not lovable. Like, I'll never be lovable. Like, I'll never have this relationship that I have in my mind's eye of what would be fulfilling and like I would feel most myself in and be able to like contribute to and all of that. I'm like, I wasn't worthy of that. And it's actually hard for me to talk about it now because it's foreign to me. Like, I'm trying to reenact that, but that no longer exists. And so my first step was recognizing that I was running away from being unlovable. And for other people, it might be a unworthiness in a different area, but there's something that you're running away from, and you have to sort of own that and do some work on the core wounds. That's my specialty in life. I had to work on myself. That's what I've worked with my clients on for years and years and years. Oh, guess what? I got to do it too,
Yeah.
And it was time to do that. And then the second thing was a really deep meditation practice. And at the time, if you had talked to me about this prior to making the entree into meditation, I would have been like, I can't meditate. I've tried 1,000 times, right? My brain goes, blah, blah, and like, no, isn't there another way, right? And I was really resistant because I wasn't very good at it. Okay. And I found, I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza. Have you heard of
Oh yeah,
Dispenza?
definitely.
Yeah. Have you, Melissa?
I have.
Okay. So go find Dr. Joe Dispenza. Okay. Because what I think worked for me was he builds an intellectual model for meditation. That's not, you don't have to build a religious practice around it. Like it's spiritual, but it's deeply seated in neuroscience. It's deeply seated in how the brain works. And for me, because I came from this academic world, I was like, oh, I can do that. That makes sense. And so before every meditation, he would build a model so you would know why you were doing what you were doing. And then doing it became easier. Was I great at it? Well, no, not really. But I kept at it because I got these glimmers of success. And that was enough for me to stay persistent. So I've recommended him to so many people, and his work has changed my life. But you have to do the work. Like, it's not just listening. So those two things, recognizing that I had a core wound, doing the work on that, and then mapping that to meditation. Now, I've journaled all my life. I continue to journal. You mentioned that, but that was not enough to make the change. Yeah.
Gotcha. Oh, I had two questions for you. Number one, Lauren, do you meditate at all?
I just pray.
Yeah. Okay.
I believe
similar.
they're similar, but they're different. So I feel like I get all of the nervous system benefits that you get from meditation. I get that from my time in prayer.
Okay. Love it. All right. That encourages me. That encouraged, because both my husband and I, that's something I think that we could both very much benefit. And we leave tomorrow for Tulum, and I'm just imagining, maybe just because it's a brand new place, that I'm just going to find a place up for us in the morning to just sit in silence and just start working on that, because I think that's something him and I could use.
Well, there's tons of science supporting meditation. It's not just woo woo. I mean, if you go, like, there's, I believe, over 20,000 pieces of research that point towards, like, it's real. It's not woo woo. So,
and Dispenza is partnered with several neuroscientists at UC San Diego, and he's doing extensive research, and they published amazing articles. So it's very deeply science-based. If you're into this, there's a online course on his website called The Progressive. It's like $350. Like, get it, listen to it while you're on your vacation, and it will set the tone for, because like just sitting, I couldn't do it, Melissa. I couldn't just sit and meditate. Like I had like,
yeah.
So
yeah. Okay. Huge. So I think right now, I believe Lauren and I, speaking as the hosts, we don't lack a lot of self-doubt. I don't believe we do. We have, of course, I'm sure we have moments, but we work with a lot of clients, and I'm sure she has patients as well that have that self-doubt in their mind. Can you kind of walk us through how you help women, anybody, but particularly women, through that stage of self-doubt when they don't believe that they can do it?
Yeah. So self-doubt is really interesting for ambitious women because we don't really acknowledge it. I never did. Like, I was like, I can do anything, just put it in front of me, right? Like, don't tell me I can't do something, right? Like, that wasn't like part of my lexicon. It wasn't an awareness, but I think it's really important to see what you avoid in life, because
Mm.
chances are that's where you don't feel radically empowered. Okay, so you just don't put yourself on the field of play, and um or you compromise, right, in certain areas, or you tolerate in certain areas. So the first place is awareness, always, right? Like becoming aware of what's actually a challenge for you, what's actually like not working for you, what's actually something that you avoid. And the level of truth that you can have with yourself is directly correlates to the amount of progress you can make. Like if you can be truthful with yourself about those places that you don't share with anyone, right, like those deep shadow places, if you can be honest and say that's not working, you can go that much further on the positive side. Okay.
Mm.
But if you don't see it, you only get the modicum of improvement. So that would awareness would be the first step. And it's sort of like Alcoholics Anonymous, which I'm not a part of, but like, admitting that you have a problem is the first
Right,
step,
right.
right? Right.
True.
And so admitting that in this area, this isn't working for me, and I don't have a lot of confidence in my abilities here. I might have confidence over here, and that's a transferable skill. So let's figure out how to transfer that confidence and frame up where you have to make the changes in a way that suits your strengths.
Hmm.
Okay. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah. No, I love that you say that everybody has a place that they're confident in. And to believe that if you can be confident here, you can also be confident over here. That's huge.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay,
100%.
so tell us the stereotypical client that works with you. Is it someone that's thinking about coming from their corporate day job that wants to pursue the entrepreneurial world, or is it someone that's already there but really is kind of stuck? Like what is the stereotype client look like to you? And then what does it look like once they become your client?
Yeah, absolutely. So the commonality is they've already had great success in their lives, okay, in some arena. Okay. So if they're in corporate, they've reached a pinnacle in their career. If they're an entrepreneur, they've built the business, they've made the money, right? If they're an athlete, they've won the Olympic medal, right? Like they've done the thing, okay? And they're asking themselves, is this all there is? Okay. And that is really critical. So they might be an actor who's had a very successful career, but wondering, is now what I have done. For me, it was the academics and the entrepreneurship, right? But it can be in whatever field. Like, you got a roadmap to success, you followed it, you got the success, and now you're wondering, if can I still be successful if I don't use my same MO to have the success? And just to add a little bit of personal flavor, for me, it was like I was so in my masculine when I was running my business, okay, that I didn't know how to be in a relationship. I didn't know how to be in my feminine. And I thought if I stepped into my feminine, I was going to lose my business, right? Like, I wouldn't know how to manage both. And so I think you have to, and so if there's a woman out there who's listening, there is a way. Okay. And it's not just sort of like the cliche things about, okay, when you're driving home from work, get into your feminine. That all those things are great, but there's a depth of identity that needs to shift. That's not just about some of the sort of like outer game tactics, right? Yeah.
Love that. I love that. So you talk about, you know, the people that have reached the pinnacle of what they've been striving for. But and I think we all have a sense of that if we all especially sit down and think about it, that this could even be momhood. You know, maybe your children are about to graduate and that was your, you know, that was your definition of success, was raising incredible humans, or, you know, whatever it is that you get to that point. But then, which they do term it the empty nester, but all of these women that have had success where they have driven to have success, there's that sense of emptiness. And my question to you when I was, you know, reading about that with you is, for me, and I would love Lauren to chime in as well. I'm sure in my life there is a sense of emptiness because I still strive and strive and strive and strive for more, and that there's some void, which obviously I don't know what that is, to make me not push so hard to be successful. It's almost an addiction, I would say. I love to work hard and I love to have that minute of success, and then literally, I thought you were going to go there for a minute. I'll have my 5 minutes of good for you, Melissa, and then I'm on to the next thing.
Totally. Yeah.
um, is there a way to identify that emptiness you talked about on your website, which you guys all have to go to it. And I don't know if this leads the way into that, but you talk about these shadows, and there were quite a few that I was like, oh, they're very eye-opening for me. So I don't know if those two correlate, if the emptiness and having these shadows intertwine, but if you could just kind of share a little bit about that, I think that's very powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. So if I were coaching you, I would ask you a lot of questions, right? Every conversation is a little bit different, but I would ask you a lot of questions to get at what things in your childhood caused you pain, pretty much. Okay. We have two motivations: towards what we want and away from pain. Okay. And oftentimes very successful entrepreneurs, we have both. Okay. We want to build business and we have dreams and visions, and there's that's the move toward, right? But the move away is something in our childhood said we made it mean we weren't good enough in some way. And you know, I know that sounds pat for like, how many times have you looked at that, right? But like to really identify what that is that you're driving towards, right? Excuse me, using as a fuel to drive towards other things, okay? And to really recognize that it's been a shadow, you can bring it out into the light, and it doesn't have to stop you from doing and experiencing the things that you really want. So I would want to know what was driving what was fueling the striving. And then I would also want to know what's missing in your life that you kind of go, oh yeah, that's I don't want to look at that, right? You know, oh, that's great, shiny,
Yeah.
shiny, shiny, but like,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
right. And
Yeah.
and to have a real honest conversation about that, not to stay there, not to wallow in it, not to say you're broken or any of that, because you're not, but to use that as awareness so that we can like build a different path. And the on my website, I lay out these 7 shadows of success, and I've just found that these are the things that continually come up for very successful women. Like the 4 out of 5 problem is one of them. And it's like 4 things in your life are fantastic, but there's this 5th thing that isn't great, and it's hasn't been great for years, and it's still not great, and you haven't figured out how to fix that as much as you want to, right? And so you just go, okay, we'll deal with it. Let's focus over here, right? Or the superwoman status kind of thing, where you like appear to everyone else to be just like, can I swear?
Oh, sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Have your shit together, right? That you don't need anyone because you're just so freaking competent. And then and this is for entrepreneurs and stay-at-home moms, right? There's the woman who who like, I'm super competent, I get everything done, and it comes across as not needing support, and you feel like you're holding the bag for everyone, and there's no one there to support you or listen to you, and or that you and this happens for a lot of leaders too, like you have to have your game face on all the time, and you can't show anyone that you need something. So anyways, there are all these shadows of success, and they're painful, and we have to bring them to the light of day, and then um solve for them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I had the website pulled up because there were a couple that really resonated with me. But of course, the Superwoman was one of them. Can you share with us a little bit about what you call the exquisite life and the like those key action steps that people can take to have? And I just think that that's such a beautiful phrase, the exquisite life. I personally, I'm sure Lauren can attest as well. I personally know so many successful people that maybe don't, when you talk to them one on one, it's what you see and how they are. And then you have other people that, you may think that, they're not very successful in life or they're not doing so hot. And then you just sit down and talk with them and you're like, you're doing just fine. You are very happy with your life.
Yeah. Yeah. So looks can be deceiving.
Mhm.
Okay. I think that's a big one. And I mean, how many of us have, put on a smiley face and gone out and done the thing, right? Like there's, it, to be fair, that is, sorry, to be fair, sometimes you have to do that. All hell can be breaking out and you've got an event and you've got 500 people in the audience, you're going to put on your game face, okay? Because you have a responsibility to show up. So there's a time and a place for that. I get that. But there is also like that, I keep coming back to that honest self-evaluation, right? Like, is your life working? Is your life not? And I had a wake-up call where I had like everything on paper looked really good. And I loved the coaching. I loved the business, but I wasn't satisfied. I wasn't happy. And I was like, okay, wait a second. That gap is happening too much, it's too wide and it's lasting too long. And that's not okay anymore. Like I'm not in integrity right now. So I really do think that to have an exquisite life, first you have to claim it. Okay. I was like,
Yeah.
my life is not exquisite. I want it to be exquisite. Like I want that. And I don't think so. I have this kind of hate love relationship with the concept of you can have it all. Like I'm like, yeah, F off, right? Like
Yep.
don't sell me a bunch of stuff. But then there's also part of me that's like, yeah, why can't I want it all. Like why can't I? And so for me, I feel like I've had to dial in one part of my life, get that really solid. It's not ignoring everything else, but like prioritize one aspect of my life, get that really solid, exquisite, and then add the next thing in, and then add the next thing in, and then add the next thing in. And I find that the rub is not taking your eye off of the ball, area one, when you're building the other ones, but setting the vision for what an exquisite life looks like for you is huge, and it's going to be different for everyone. But I had a lot of work to do. I wanted more vitality. I wanted I'm 54, so I hit menopause and I was like, that's just happened, and I was really resistant to that, and I did not handle it as well as I probably could have initially. But like getting that in check, and I know this is your guys's area of like, like lane is health and fitness and well-being. So I had to get that in check because I think that's foundational. Your body and is foundation, but my spirit needed to be nurtured as well. And this is where the meditation really came into play for you, Lauren, your prayer practice, right? Learning how to sit in silence and be with myself and tap into God and and love and the universe. That was a world I hadn't really fostered. I was way too busy for that. And so I've kind of built the vision of what I wanted and then started ticking off these things. And I've lost the trail sometimes and had to come back. Like I said, no one's perfect, but like in the me before wasn't giving it a shot, you know?
Mhm.
The me
What's a common
now,
attribute of amongst all of the people that you worked with that have established an exquisite life?
a strong enough desire.
Mm.
Yeah.
And that does come from pain. Okay. Like it does come from, this isn't effing working. Right.
Yeah.
When it's pretty good, it's hard to like
True.
commit to doing the work.
Yeah.
But having some, that's the dark night of the soul. We right. And being like unwilling to tell yourself again, okay, I'm just going to get busy and I don't have time for this. I have to focus over here. How many times have we said that? I mean, I'm calling myself out on this, right? Like I've said that 1,001 times, and it was, the story I told myself. I won't say lie, even though it was the story I told myself to make it all right, not to face those demons. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I wanted to ask you, I had a really early on in my career, I had a mentor, and she would have us write down 10 goals that we wanted to achieve. And she would also have us do the, rate your love life, your relationships, your finances, your relationships, with God. And so we would do all that. And the one thing I loved about that practice was looking at those 10 goals and then finding the one that kind of had that weighed the most on helping the other 9 happen. And I'm sitting here in my mind going, I wonder if that helped or hindered my love of success, because I would look at those 10 things and of course I would put, a healthier relationship with my husband. It can always improve, closer relationship with my children, things like that. But it was never I would never choose it as the
Most important. Yeah.
the push goal, because to me, and this is just being vulnerable, creating that closer relationship with my kids, even though it was already great, but to nurture it even more, didn't put money in my bank, and money in my bank made less stress for the family, made it so my kids could go to college, could make it so that my husband and I could enjoy our love of travel. So in your opinion, is doing something like that good or bad?
It's a double-edged sword, Melissa. Okay, so good on you for being vulnerable there. I had the same thing.
Yeah.
I would put my business first, always.
Yeah.
Right? Because I thought if I had enough money, everything else would become easier. And to some extent, that's true. I don't want to give people the line like money doesn't buy happiness. Of course it doesn't. Okay. It wasn't made to buy happiness, but it buys childcare, and it buys first class tickets, and it buys a plumber to fix it same day and not having to wait. Right. Like it does do some things. It build, I lived in a beautiful house and beautiful car and all of that sort of stuff. Right.
Mhm.
So there is a place for that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And until the point where that's no longer satisfying. Okay. And so it depends what stage you're at. So
Mhm.
for the woman who is starting her business and is listening and going, oh yeah, money doesn't buy happiness, I'm not going to work that hard. No, that's not what I'm saying. Okay.
Yeah.
Like if you want the business, if you don't want the business, that's all good. Okay. Like totally. If you don't want the career, that's all good. Like everyone has a different life path. Okay. But if you are driven, and you're in that phase of your life, you're going to be like, yeah, I'm my go hard phase.
Yeah.
Okay. But the other thing, and I maybe you two can add flavor to this, but one of the things that I found as I went through menopause was a recognition that we're all born with a certain amount of testosterone, and women have less than men, but biologically. And I had used up my testosterone, right? Like I just plain and simple had gone hard for so many years. And it was fun. I loved it, you guys. I wasn't miserable. I was having a freaking blast. Okay. But at some point I was like, I don't have it. I've tapped out on just using this reserve up. And yes, there's ways we can help that and add to it and all of that. But I had to recognize that I was in a different phase of my life, and that if my only satisfaction was going to be this go hard to make money like practice, I was going to be radically disappointed. And that was, Melissa, particular to you, because you asked the question, that was an identity crisis for me. I had to reconceive of who I was, and that was not a overnight just add water, super quick process. I had to go, oh, this is how I want to live my life now, and become that person who was radically different than the person who was going hard for, the 12, 14-hour, 16-hour days. Yeah. Do you have anything to add to the conversation around the testosterone? Because I think that's a big one.
Well, yeah, I mean, I do bioidentical hormone replacement therapy with all my patients, and this is definitely something that's very passionate in my life, because, replacing hormones that your ovaries used to make. And yes, you are correct. All right, both men and women make both estrogens and testosterone, and both sexes end up needing replacement if you want to feel your optimized best about midlife. And a lot of women are gaslit, because if a man comes in complaining about the same similar symptoms, they're given multiple options, and a woman is just basically told, put on your big girl panties, it's the stage of life, get over it. And it's not right. I just like, we females have been gaslit, and I'm not saying that everything from the feminism movement is bad, but we were gaslit that you don't need to, all you need is a powerful empire. You're a woman, blah, blah, blah. And we were sold a bill of lies. And there's a lot of women that are in our generation that thought that that would bring all the happiness, and it doesn't, So we women have been gaslit for a lot of different things. And, platforms like this, I think, are making people realize, like, all right, no. This is not your exquisite life that God intended you to live.
Absolutely. Like it really, so I've done bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, and I love it. And I still don't have the energy I had 10 years ago. Like I don't.
That means you're not working with the right doctor.
Well,
I'm just saying.
I also think that I received that. I've worked with two, and I love that I don't bonk out anymore, right? But it's like, I think 54 is just like, I'm not driven in the same way that I was when I was 45. I just, or 44, like at 44, I was like, still like, we are building a freaking empire, right? Yeah. And that is just not like, that's not in my my energy stance right now. Do I want to do great things in this world? Yes, but it's with a softer flow to it, if you will. Yeah.
I am sitting here nodding my head, because I was going to say earlier, is as a woman who's, almost 51, that I can so resonate with that, because I don't know, my brain has just changed so much. And I don't know if it has to do with the fact that it's at such a strong decade, such a big change from 49 to 50, the first half of the century to the last, I don't know, or even if it's what society tells you, but you hear people say all the time, you give a lot less, stuff when you turn 50, and you care a lot less what people think about you, and you do want to work harder on a legacy than income. I don't know the person that quoted that you spend the first half of your life building wealth, the second half, building that legacy, that purpose. And that is just so dang true. That when I turned the age 50, that I went to that. And I love how you put just that it's a softer feel than it was. I mean, I was incredibly aggressive for, many decades on everything. my health, my physique, my business, my relationships, everything. And it's just now it's different, but there is still, for me, I still have that push to be very successful, but a lot of other things have gotten a lot softer on things that were super important to me that aren't anymore.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you're right, Lauren, about the gas lighting. Like I was just at a entrepreneurial get together, like mastermind with 170 people. So it was very large, but it was, but a lot of sitting and chilling out and talking and having great conversations. And, I spoke to one man who I thought was great, like as a human, but he basically said, your tits are going to sag, your vagina is going to be dry. Like, just, get used
Wow.
to it.
And then
I
did
was
you
like,
throat punch him at that time?
you know,
He
and
deserved a
yet,
throat punch at that point.
yeah, right. I mean, I get that aging is, we age, okay?
Ow.
But there's a lot of different ways to do that.
Yeah.
And so, I'm with you that there isn't there isn't a lot of understanding around how to do it exquisitely, to use my
Yeah.
frame on it, right? It's not that we have to do it the same. It's like,
Mhm.
what's the new vision of how to do it and how to do it exquisitely, right?
Yeah.
What does that look like to you? And sagging boobs are not part of my
That's one of them. I love it. How do you feel about, because you're talking about successful women, and uh, do you, with your clients, I know every client is different, but if they're already successful, especially financially, is one of your tools is to help them learn to delegate, or to, take things off their plate that aren't so important, so that they can focus, on what's important, and, finding the shadows, and working on those. Is delegation a part of that for you, or do you just have people dismiss some of the things in their life that really aren't as important as they think they are?
It really is unique. It really depends on the situation. Sometimes it's a matter of you need to hire and hire well, because you need to let go of this, and let's figure out why you don't feel comfortable letting go of it. Is it a trust issue? Is it not having the right person? Is it feeling like only you can do it? A lot of these things, but oftentimes when people get fairly successful, they've learned the art of delegation. Okay.
Yeah.
They've learned how to hire. Um, Sometimes, hiring is always like a thing, right?
Yeah.
But um so you don't always get it right, but if you've been at it for a while, when you haven't gotten it right, and you know like, let the person go. Anyways, so there's that for sure, but it's also like, why are you holding on to this thing that's not working for you? you
Mm.
know and is there another way to have the satisfying life? Like, are you attached to this because you're trying to prove something to yourself? Are you attached to this because you've just always done it this way? Are
Mm.
you
Both.
right? So
Yeah.
there's a lot of different things. And I would love to be the type of person with the 5 steps to the exquisite life, and here's the things you have to do. And I've had those conversations, and I can break it down that way. But the truth is, like, everyone's unique, and let's figure out what it is for you, so that we can back engineer and develop the thing that's going to actually work for you. Like, if this is the vision, what do we have to do to get there? If this is what's driving you, do we want to keep that? Do we need to reframe it? Like, how do those two ends come together?
Yeah.
You know? And it's important to have the time and the space to do that deep work, that deep thinking.
And
So-
go ahead,
No,
Lauren.
go ahead. Well, I was just going to say, because I do have a patient very soon, so we have to wrap this up. But before we wrap it up, if you had one piece of advice that you could give all your listeners after all of your experience of coaching so many females specifically, what would that one key piece of advice be?
Be honest with yourself. Trust yourself.
Sounds easy.
Right. But
Not so
like,
much.
so often, like, in your body when you're telling yourself a story, it gets kind of amped up a little bit. The stuff is circling in your mind. You're coming up with the justifications, right? It's like this, like you're having who do you have that conversation with, right? Okay. Right. And you know that you're in a story at that point. Hey, take a moment and just get really honest with yourself there. And then trust that you're resilient. Trust that you can do this. Trust that there's a way forward. Trust that spirit, God, source, the universe is in support of what you truly want, that you're not alone, right?
Yeah.
So those two bits. Yeah. And get help if you want it, right? Yeah.
And that's what I was going to say, which we can use to wrap up, was Lauren and I both, preach that there's so many, you can, in our space, the wellness space, people will put out a meal plan or put out a exercise program and for the masses. And so you're giving a diet and a workout program to a 21-year-old and a 57-year-old because nobody knows. And what works well for a 21-year-old versus what works well for a 57-year-old are 100% completely different. And that I love to hear that you're like, I don't have a cookie cutter answer to any of this because I need to listen to your story. I need to listen to what you're telling yourself. We need to communicate. And I think that's golden. To hear you say that is proof that you are a very good coach, because you're not one of those people that say, let me give you those 5 proven strategies to get you where you want to go. And you physically and mentally and spiritually and emotionally cannot do that to somebody because you're doing them such a disservice.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
All right. Well, I really appreciate this time. And for Lauren, we will put some Mick and I will put some communal prayer and meditation together. I'm saying this to you guys out loud so that I promise to do that. And I will give you some feedback, Lauren, on how it goes. But I really
know too.
Yeah, I will. And I really appreciate that because, we all take takeaways from all of these podcasts. And for me, that was a really big one because I think him and I could use something like that. So I hope that you guys got to take away all of Lauren and I's following that is just go-getters. We know we have so many of you out there, how important it is to look for coaching through people like Amira to really realize you might be pushing really hard and there's satisfaction in that, but are you living the exquisite life that you can put your head on your pillow every night and be very proud of the fact that you are hitting all the areas in your life and you're fulfilled in more areas than just one.
Amen.
Yeah. 100%.
All right. As always, we're going to go ahead and close this and say, I hope you wake up feeling prepared and go to bed feeling proud. Screwed up my own tagline. Dang it. Go to bed feeling proud. You guys have a great day. Thank you, Amira. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Amir.
You're welcome. Thank you.